Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathsala. I am Sangamithrai from the Department of Textiles and Clothing, Avinashlingam University. Today we will be looking on the topic printing with natural dyes. Printing is the process of applying color onto the fabric. It is a process of value addition on the fabric. Naturally or normally, all the fabrics or textiles we use in our daily life are printed. Unlike dyeing, printing is localized form of applying color in a definite pattern or to form a design. In India, traditionally printing process has been carried out in many parts of the country in using various techniques. Natural printing is not so common as natural dyeing. Today, the researchers are looking on various techniques or various methods to commercialize printing using natural dyes. The objectives of this study is to understand and identify the need for natural dyes in printing, to enable you to understand process of printing with natural dyes, and to evaluate the fastness of natural prints. Why do we need natural dyes for printing? There is a growing interest on printing with natural dyes due to the demand on the use of natural substances replacing synthetic colorants. In order to avoid the pollution problems caused by synthetic dyes, the textile industry is looking into ways of using natural dyes in commercial dyeing and printing. Although dyeing with natural dyes has widespread in scientific researches, printing using natural dyes is limited. Pigment printing is the most economical printing process that is commonly applied to all fabrics. Natural dyes. What are natural dyes? Natural dyes are the colorants derived from natural resources, that is either from plants, insects or minerals. Dyeing with natural colorants was practiced from ancient times. It can be classified based on its origin, based on its structure or on its hue. Based on origin, natural dyes can be sorted into three categories, that is natural dyes obtained from plants or from natural dyes obtained from animals and natural dyes obtained from minerals. Vegetable dyes can be obtained from various plant parts such as flowers, fruits, seeds, leaves, barks, trunks, roots, etc. Most of the natural dyes belongs to this category. Insect or animal dyes. These dyes are obtained from exudation of dried bodies of insects, namely cochineal, worms and molluscus. Lac dye and Tyrian purple belong to this category. Mineral dyes are from various pigments from inorganic metal salts and metal oxides belong to this category of natural dyes. Based on structure, natural colorants can be classified broadly as indigoids, anthraquinones, alpha-naphthoquinones, flavones and dihydroprions. Based on hue, it can be arranged as yellow, orange, red, blue, green, brown and black dye. Some of the sources of different color dyes and mordants such as safflower, madar, patak, mulberry, etc., kamala are examples of natural dyes. Mordant. A mordant is an element which aids the chemical reaction that takes place between the dye and the fiber so that the dye is absorbed. These compounds bind the natural dyes to the fabric. There are three types of mordants, that is metallic mordants, tannins and oil mordants. Different mordanting techniques are adapted. Mordanting is the treatment of textile fabric with metallic salt or other complex forming agents which bind the natural mordantable dyes onto the textile fiber. Mordanting can be achieved either by pre-mordanting, simultaneous mordanting or post-mordanting. Different types and selecting mordants or their combination can be applied on textile fabrics to obtain varying color or shade to increase the dye uptake and improve the color fastness behavior of any natural dye. Printing process. The printing process does involve several stages in order to prepare the fabric and the printing paste and to fix the impression permanently on the fabric. A typical printing process involves the following steps: preparation of fabric, preparation of colors, preparation of printing paste, printing process, drying of the fabric, fixing the print and after process treatments. Preparation of fabric for printing. For any type of fabric, thorough preparation is essential for better penetration of prints, maximum color yield and brilliance. For cellulosic fabrics, desicing, scouring and bleaching are normally carried out. Woolen fabrics are scored and must be chlorinated to attain good color yield and to stabilize the fabric during steaming and washing off after printing. Similarly, silk fabric which is to be printed may be degummed prior to printing. For a colored background, the fabric is then dyed. The cloth has to be brushed to free it from loose nap, flocks and dust that it picks up while storing. Some fabrics require very careful stretching and straightening on a stenter before they are mounted for the printing process. Preparation of colors. Natural dye materials are collected from nature. It may be a plant or animal source. If it is a flower, the blossoms should be in a full bloom, berries should be ripe and nuts should be mature. The amount of material collected should be twice that of the fabric weight. The material should be dried in shade. Preparation of printing paste with natural dye. When printing textiles, the dye or pigments is not in an aqueous liquor. Instead, it is usually finely dispersed in a printing paste in high concentration. Pigment printing paste contain a thickening agent, a binder and if necessary, other auxiliaries such as fixing agents along with the dye source. The process traditionally starts with the preparation of paste. The composition of paste is more complex and variable, being determined not only by the dye used but also by the printing techniques, the fabric, fixation methods applied. Mixing of color is one important aspect to ensure quality of printing. The color should be added with all the ingredients and constant stirring of paste must be ensured at that time. Dye powder. All the dyes used were first converted to powder form. After gathering the dye source, it is dried and powdered. The powder so obtained should be filtered through mesh fabric. The fine powder of natural dye can be used for preparing printing paste. Thickening agents. The thickener is the crucial component of printing paste. The purpose of thickener is twofold. First, the thickener gives the printing paste the proper viscosity or flow characteristics so the color can be applied uniformly and evenly. Second, it holds the color in place so that one color paste can be applied adjacent to another without the color bleeding on to the other. The printing thickeners used depend on the printing technique, the fabric and the particular dye stuff. Typical thickening agents are starch derivatives, flour, gum arabic, guar gum derivatives, tamarind, sodium alginate and sodium polyacrylate. Binders. Binder is a chemical which forms a thin layer on the fabric. The color binds to this layer. Any binder must be relatively soft and flexible in addition to good film forming capacity and stability. An increasing awareness about the realization that the chemical intermediates used in dyeing and printing are also toxic and hazardous to human health as well to the environment. This has led to the use of non-toxic, eco-friendly materials. Natural thickening agents such as cassia seed gum, mango kernel gum, starches and tamarind seeds are used for the natural printing paste nowadays in place of synthetic thickeners. Printing process. Printing is the impression of color and fabric in a definite pattern using printing methods. Before printing, it is essential to strain or sieve all colors in order to free them from lumps, fine sand and other impurities. Straining is usually done by squeezing the color through filter cloths like fine cotton, silk or industrial woven nylon. Fine sieves can also be employed for colors that are used as hot or as very strong alkali and acid. There are a number of printing methods following printing industry that uses synthetic dyes. But natural dye printing is carried out in small scale. The printers use a pen-like tool or blocks to print natural dye onto the fabric. However, screen printing method is also now used for natural dye printing. Block printing. A typical hand block print has no large uniform area of color but was skillfully built up for many small colored areas. This process is the earliest, simplest and slowest of all printing methods. A design is drawn on or transferred to prepared wooden blocks. A separate block is required for each distinct color in the design. Fine details difficult to cut in wood or built up in strips of brass or copper which is bent to a shape and driven edgewise into the flat surface of the block. This method is known as coppering. The printer applies color to the block and presses it firmly and steadily on the cloth. The second impression is made in the same way. The printer taking care to see that it registers exactly with the first. Pins at each corner of the block join up exactly so that the pattern can continue without breaking. Each succeeding impression is made precisely the same manner until the length of cloth is fully printed. The cloth is then wound over drying rollers. If the pattern contains several colors, the cloth is first printed throughout with one color, dried and then printed with the next. Block printing by hand is a slow process. It is, however, capable of yielding highly artistic results, some of which are unobtainable by any other method. Screen printing. Screen printing is by far the common technology today. A significant characteristic of screen printing is that a greater thickness of paste can be applied to the fabric than is possible with other printing techniques. This allows for some very interesting effects. Flat screen printing is usually used for printing with natural dye. Color paste will pass through only in areas where no stencil is applied, thus forming an image on the printing fabric. The diameter of the threads and the thread count of the mesh will determine how much color is deposited on the surface. A blade, that is a squeegee, squeezes the printing paste through openings in the screen onto the fabric. After treatment of prints. Fixation. Fixing the print will depend on the manufacturer. A common method is to iron on the reverse. For natural dyes, iron on the reverse and then rinse in alternating temperatures of water with detergent. Fixation may also be done by steaming. Some steamers are multi-purpose that it may be used as steamer and also to fix pigment prints by baking at a certain temperature. The fabrics are dried in air and then calendared. Washing off. Efficient washing of printed fabric is critical to success from both technological and environmental standpoints. It is clearly desirable to minimize the use of water and energy while at the same time attaining good removal of thickener, chemicals and unfixed dyes which must not stain back onto the fabric. The traditional washing off methods use an open soaker for woven goods is still common, but knitted goods are most difficult to handle and formerly were treated by washing in rope form on winches. Traditional prints in India. With a printing tradition dating back to ages, India is a host to a wide variety of textile arts, celebrated all over the world and applauded within the nation. The handicraft sectors in India has been one worth boasting about. Different regions boast of different textures, styles and techniques, and each has a different method along with a unique output. Each has a distinct style which is easily recognizable when worn. Some of the traditional printing techniques adapted in India are listed here. Kalamkari. Kalamkari is a type of hand-painted or block-printed cotton textile produced in parts of Andhra Pradesh. There are two distinct styles of kalamkari in India. Sri Kalahasti style, wherein the kalam or a pen is used for freehand drawing of subject and filling in colors, and it is entirely hand-worked. Masilampatnam style use blocks for printing the dyes. Dyes for the cloth are obtained by extracting colors from various roots, leaves and mineral salts of iron, tin, copper and alum. Various effects are obtained by using cow dung, seeds, plants and crushed flowers to obtain natural dye. Along with buffalo milk, myrobalan is used in kalamkari. Myrobalan is also able to remove the odd smell of buffalo milk. The fixing agents available in the myrobalan can easily fix the dye or color of the textile while treating the fabric. Alum is used in making natural dyes and also while treating the fabric. Alum ensures the stability of color in kalamkari fabric. Bagh, an indigenous printing technique from Bagh district of Madhya Pradesh. It essentially refers to a technique of block printing by hand where the colors used are absolutely natural. The process includes the use of geometric designs and bright colors. From cotton, silk, chiffon to bamboo chicks, this process can be carried out on a variety of fabrics. The fabric after removal of starch is made to undergo what is known as the bathi process, which includes boiling, drying and subsequently printing. Ajrak, a particular kind of block printed shawls from the western states in India where they display designs made using block printing by stamps. Wooden block print gives rise to very geometric shapes and patterns. Vegetable dyes and other natural dyes are used for the process, and this garment is a symbol of area's culture and heritage. Dabu. Dabu or Dabo originates in Rajasthan and is a beautiful mud-resistant hand block printing technique. It survived the test of time with some difficulty and is a time-consuming printing technique involving many phases and a great amount of labor. A very complicated process. It involves phases of washing, hand printing, use of mud resist and drying. Plants, flowers and different motifs are core components of this kind of block printing, and the technique is practiced in various villages in Rajasthan. Gold and silver dust. Dust of precious metals like gold and silver is used in this age-old technique to give textile the sparkle of gold. Over the ages, the technique has adopted the use of more affordable metals like mica and chamki. This technique uses of already printed, dyed and finished textiles as it only involves work on the surface without much permeability. A Rogan gum paste with castor oil is used. Two different blocks are used, and through perforations, the gum paste is squeezed in a pattern on the textile. Then the metal dust is sprinkled on the top of this to add the necessary amount of shine and glitter. Some dots and dashes comprise most designs. Sanganeri. Sanganeri, a kind of block printing that originated in Rajasthan, adorns home decor materials as well as apparel. This involves laying out of material on tables and then printing using blocks with intricate designs. The fabric is marked before so that symmetry of designs is maintained. Floral designs with buds, flowers, leaves, mangoes and even jhumkas sometimes are part of the detailed designs on the block. Bandhani. Bandhani is a tie and dye fabric. This technique dates back to Indus Valley civilization. The cloth is plucked by fingernails in tiny bindings and then dyed. A design made up primarily of dots of different sizes against a backdrop of bright colors marked Bandhani. Lahariya. A simple dyeing technique popular in Rajasthan. This is a result in striped textiles in a huge variety of bright colors. Cotton or silk cloth is subjected to resist dyeing. The cloth is tied and folded in a manner that the color applied only in a particular pattern on the textile. Batik. The kind of prints revolve around selective soaking of cloth in a color and preferentially printing it using wax. The process includes soaking, beating, drawing of patterns, applying of wax and other techniques. A wax-resistant dyeing technique, sometimes called as batik printing, is a process applied to the whole length of cloth. Either a spouted tool or a copper stamp called cap is used for this. Bagru. Bagru is a popular printing technique followed in Jaipur. It is a laborious process but produces exquisite results. Washing, hard dyeing, drying and other parts form the core of the printing process. Blocks are placed from left to right and slammed hard on the fabric. The fabric is dried afterwards. They are then washed and boiled and finally rinsed to get the final product. For any dyed or printing fabric, color fastness is essential. Generally, it is assumed that color will change according to the textile material and printing process. But in natural dyes, this expectation is somewhat high due to the effect of modern type of natural dye, extract, binder and fiber type. What is fastness? Fastness is the property to hold the dye to the fabric. Fastness is the fundamental requirement that colored textile should exhibit to the conditions encountered during the process following coloration and during their subsequent usage. The fastness requirements, however, are largely determined by the end use of the dyed fabrics. The important parameters for the evaluation of natural dyes used in printing processes: fastness of prints for light, for washing, rubbing, perspiration. Light fastness. Most of the natural dyes have poor light stability as compared to that of synthetic dyes, and hence the colors in historical or textiles are often different from their original colors. Fading of colors on the textile occurs on exposure to light. This degradation occurs when light breaks chemical bonds in dyes. Sunlight is made up of ultraviolet light, visible light and infrared radiation. While short wave UV cause most of the physical property damage to fibers, it is generally the longer wave UV and visible light that causes dye textile fade. Poor light fastness of some of the natural dyes can be attributed to the property of dye chrome 4 to the photochemical oxidation. Washing fastness. Many of the natural dyes undergo a little change in their hue on washing. This may be due to the alkali nature of washing mixture, mainly the pH. In general, natural dyes have only moderate washing fastness. The fastness of color can vary with the type of dye, the particular shade used, the depth of the shade and dyeing process, and mainly the nature of washing mixture. Rubbing fastness. The extent of rubbing may be influenced by the moisture. As many textile transfers more color when wet, the dry rubbing fastness was slightly better than the wet rubbing fastness. To conclude, we can say there is a great scope for the natural dyes in the printing area. The interest in natural printing may be due to the increasing concern over preservation of nature, as textile effluents are the serious cause for environmental deterioration. Since the use of natural dyes in fabric is very common, there is very little research in using of natural dyes for printing. Hence, we can say there is a great potential for the use of natural dyes in printing. Also, it has a potential to replace some of the synthetic printing components. Though it cannot altogether replace the printing with the synthetic dyes, we can say that natural dyes can at least replace some of the most toxic and carcinogenic synthetic dyes as well. Hence, trying printing with natural dye can prove scopeful.